Hello and welcome to 630 Point of View. I am Robert Hahn.
And I'm Chris Berg.
Another Friday.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, it's been a long week. We're both still battling whatever this bug is that's going around. Let's jump right into something that happened this morning. Dayton, Governor Dayton over Minnesota, saying he's likely to drop the sales tax changes from the budget. Good idea? Bad idea?
Phenomenal idea. I mean, here's a guy that was coming out as a chief executive of state saying, yeah, you know what, these business guys don't really want to pay the taxes and trying to pawn it off on business people when the challenge is it hurts the people he apparently ran to go out and help, the low income and middle class people. So I think he finally got the message from the business owners that this is going to get passed on to consumers. He's probably going to take it out, which is a great thing.
Yeah, not only that, he's going to go over some other things. Basically a fine-tooth comb, he's going to go over this plan. And there may be other budget revisions in there as well. All right, moving on, a story that we did last night here on Valley News Live. Police and overtime. The bulk of the overtime going to 9 officers to the tune of a couple $100,000 over the past couple of years. Chief Turnus saying, hey, these are the guys that always volunteer. You know, you've got a staff of 145. I don't see a huge deal in it as, you know.
At the end of the day, the past
volunteer?
2 years, he's been under budget. So you got to give the guy kudos for that. And if you've got 9 people that consistently, that you know you can count on, they're going to go take the overtime and they want to do that, obviously, that's their prerogative. I think the key thing, again, you got to look at is if he's coming in under budget, congratulations to Mr. Turnus.
Now, the chief is looking for 5 more officers. You're paying all this overtime. Do you think that some people might look at that and say, hey, maybe you'll pay a little bit less in overtime and hire some more officers? Do you think you look at it that way, or is the overtime a necessary evil?
I don't think so. You get 5 more people out there, I think you're going to see some of these overtime hours get decreased. Again, obviously, Mr. Turnus being fiscally conservative, saying, hey, the most important thing is I'm underneath budget. If he continues to do that, then you got to tip your hat to him.
All right, moving on. We had a gentleman that I didn't think anybody talked more than Chris Berg, but apparently Rand Paul has proven me wrong with his filibuster earlier this week, just under 13 hours of talking. That against Brennan's appointment as the CIA director. Well, now he is the CIA director. Do you feel fine with him being the CIA director?
I have not vetted Brennan probably to the level that I should. So to say yes or no, I'm going to say I don't know right now. I obviously hear some things about this man that people are concerned about. But I think the big thing about Rand Paul was not even so much just to stop the CIA nomination, but also just to point out, look what this president's doing.
But I mean, a lot to the drone issue.
And he went down a whole multitude of things saying, wait a second, what's going on here? And then you get clowns like Lindsey Graham and coming up and going, hey, what was the big deal when George Bush had a drone program? He didn't say he was going to kill Americans on American soil, Mr. Graham. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about.
And the White House yesterday backtracked from that, saying, hey, absolutely not, that will not happen.
But you saw the soundbite with Ted Cruz where our attorney general was kind of going, well, I don't know, maybe.
And they completely changed their tune yesterday. So that's why I'm like, a little hesitant to see, what's going to happen there. Monday, you talked to Mr. Ayers, I believe it was. If we could play a quick soundbite from that, please.
Whether you like that or not, you went out and broke laws to try to make a point.
And I paid the consequence of breaking those laws.
But you were never charged.
Parks. I'm sorry? No, that's not true.
What do you think?
I think he should just come out and say, you know what, I made bad decisions. I apologize for what I did. Let's start a new chapter. And clearly his pride's getting in the way, preventing him from doing that.
You asked some tough questions to Mr. Purdon, who you talked to earlier this week as well. Before I ask you about that and what you've heard from that since, let's go ahead and play a soundbite from that if we could, please.
Mr. Purdon, do you believe the BIA and the FBI are doing their job at Spirit Lake?
Absolutely, absolutely. The FBI agents who work Spirit Lake, I've worked with them now for the last 2.5 years. I worked with them before that when I was in private practice. You have some outstanding law enforcement officers.
What's being done? Have you heard of anything that's really being done there?
No, and he sent us an email actually after the interview trying to say, hey, Chris, this is what we've done, obviously, to help make sure that we're prosecuting these sexual predators on the reservation. There are a couple people that have been prosecuted, very, very small number compared to what you're hearing coming out of the reservation, which is concerning for me. This is where I said before, I don't want this to be a Sandusky stain on the state of North Dakota. The men on the reservation need to stand up and say enough is enough. The fact that you've got a alleged rapist walking around
a huge concern.
a reservation right right now, absolutely free, while the victim, 13 years old, has been sent down to South Dakota in juvenile detention away from her family. How does that make sense to anybody?
Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. How does it make sense to you? I don't know. All right. On Wednesday, I got a chance to talk to MSUM President Edna Szymanski about the whole sending out some letters, acceptance letters to people, 232 students that shouldn't have gotten them. Anyway, here's a soundbite from Ms. Szymanski.
How did it happen? A host of problems where well-intentioned people made decisions that they really didn't have the authority to make. And that's how it happened. And we've been in the process of some reorganization of that unit, and we discovered these issues. We have put into place some things to make sure that it can't happen again. But the whole thing about admissions that I want to tell you is that the region needs people with good post-secondary education. So our responsibility is to help students start where they're most likely to succeed.
And that's the bottom line, is her job as the president is to set up these students who succeed. So they sent out these letters, rescinded the letters, but then said, hey, yeah, you can go ahead and come on in here, but they're going to use some sort of program to where they are going to leg up, so they aren't necessarily going to have trouble in their first year of college, because that first year, especially if you're a long way from home, is a very difficult challenge. I can certainly vouch for that. All right, coming up, we've got Feel Good Friday coming up later on. Who do we have on the show?
We've got a special guest coming from United Churches of the Homeless. It's a much more pervasive problem I think we understand here in the area. The executive director, Jane Alexander, is going to join us. And of course, we're going to get to your feedback as well.
We got lots of feedback today.
Friday. So join our conversation. Go to the website, 630pov.com. Call us, text us, leave us voicemails, email,
Bad signal
works for you.
And welcome back to 630 Point of View. Today, a feel-good feedback Friday, and we've got plenty of your feedback that we didn't get to this past week, and we're going to try and get to some of that as we go through the show today. You ready to go?
I'm ready.
All right, we're going to start off with a voicemail, if we could, please.
I would like to ask Mr. Berg about what he thinks is appropriate college education courses. He is refusing, or he's upset about having Mr. Ayers have a seminar and speaking to the students over at MSUM. But he was also upset with the University of Minnesota having the class on the G-spot. Why doesn't he also talk about the people who are presenting the vagina monologues in regard to domestic violence and abuse towards women? What does he consider an appropriate college course? Given that they do have so many courses on police interactions and war, are those more appropriate?
That's to you, Mr. Berg.
First of all, I wasn't familiar about the vagina monologue, so I guess my bad. But here's my point. I said this when we had the show that night is, what's the objective of higher ed? Is it to bury kids in debt? Is it to find that right now, by the way, we have 53% unemployment or underemployment with kids that have graduated with college degrees? If that's success in your mind, then go move to a socialist country. The point that I said is, look, let's train kids to become leaders of the next generation, to get employed and be productive citizens of America. If learning where the G-spot is going to make me a productive citizen in this country, then I'm missing something. Maybe I should move. I don't know, but I don't think a class teaching me about the G-spot is going to make me a productive citizen and a great leader for the next generation.
You know, to be fair, it wasn't like a class, like for a full semester. It was a one-night seminar.
Does
that change your tune?
No.
Why is it? It's like an elective course. Did you take everything that drove you to your degree? You didn't take any courses that were, basket weaving, kite flying.
I didn't take, but I took a class called Group Com, which I thought was going to be kind of a fluff class, but it did open my eyes to a lot of different things because we live in such a homogenous society. Or the woman brought together all different sort of ethnicities, socioeconomics, religious backgrounds. So it was great to be a part of that. My point is that, look, we've got kids that are graduating with $30,000 in debt right now that can't get a job. Is that a good investment?
Doesn't sound like it. All right, moving on. We've got I believe this is a text that says, why is the media, politicians, and government changing words? For example, using government revenue, not taxes, human trafficking, not slavery. Just give us the truth. Well, I don't remember myself calling it government revenue. I mean, it's taxes. People,
It is, but the government uses language. It's
I
the
agree.
war on words, and you look at the Affordable Care Act. Doesn't
Yeah.
that make us feel all nice, warm, and fuzzy?
How is it affordable?
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think people really understand how expensive the quote-unquote Affordable Health Care Act is going to be for individuals.
Politicians realize that giving you the actual words doesn't work. Look at Andrew Jackson with the Indian Removal Act. Do you think there would be any act in Congress today that would be that blatant about what the objective of the act is? No. So they give you these fluffy words like the Affordable Care Act.
And people think you get free health care from that. Well, guess what? Not anywhere close to being free. All right, up next, we've got another voicemail for you.
Chris Berg, you sound like an idiot. The United States Congress did not legally declare war in Vietnam. It was a police action called a conflict. So the killing of civilians would have been illegal. Thank you.
Your thoughts?
As far as I know, it's got to take a president of Congress to declare war and to use those resources and to open up the purse strings. So what you're saying is that the entire Vietnam War was an illegal war? Maybe it initiated that
It was
way
a
and
police
finally a
action.
declaration
There
of
was
war?
never a declaration of war.
There was never a declaration of
Never
war
a declaration of war.
by anybody. So they just kept funding
Never
this war
a declaration of war.
for the heck of it.
It wasn't for the heck of it. It may look like it now, but there was never a declaration of war. All right, we are moving on. I believe this is another text. It says, don't build in the bottom of a lake bed. Keep losing farmland and you will go hungry someday. Well, and that's, a lot of people said that about New Orleans. It's 7 feet below sea level. We're above sea level here, but, there are some situations where, hey, this isn't a bad spot to live. Anytime that you live next to a river, you're going to have flooding from time to time. That's the bottom line. You live next to the ocean, you're going to have hurricanes. I mean, it's one of those deals. Different parts of the country have to deal with different aspects of where they live in terms of earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, floods. Let's just deal with it. What do you think? All right, moving on. We've got another email. This says, I think that President Edna is concerned about student success, but what happened to leadership? Someone did something that they did not have authority to do. This is her administration. I really wanted to hear that she takes responsibility and will see to it that it does not happen again. Well, I did interview her, and then she said that. She said she's going to do everything in her power to make sure that this does not happen again. She used to look at other universities and colleges around the country, and she had heard of instances like this and saying, oh, man, I don't know how that could ever happen. Well, then it happened at MSUM. And she said in that interview, if you go back and replay it, she said, I will make sure that this never happens again. All right, we've got another voicemail for you.
Bill Ayers is your obvious intellectual superior, Mr. Berg, and you can thank John Kerry for having last week in Germany having said that Americans have the right to be stupid because it's the only thing protecting you.
I have no idea what he's trying to say.
I believe he's saying that Mr. Ayers is your intellectual superior.
According to who? And
According
according to what?
Him. That's his opinion.
That's the beauty of the show. You can have your opinion, and that's what makes this show fun.
You seem kind of perturbed about that one. We'll talk about that one a little bit later. All right, we've got another one. This, I believe, is another email. It says, the interview with the district attorney is unsettling. It appears that he is spending more time investigating Tom Sullivan than he is the child sex abuse cases. This attorney has a lack of knowledge of the situation is quite apparent. I appreciate Tom keeping the pressure on. We can only pray that the heat is kept on this situation and that kids are safe on reservations. And that's the bottom line. The safety of the children. I mean, investigate it. Is it ever going to be 100% safe? No. I mean, nowhere ever is going to be that way, but it can be a lot better than it is now. Your thought? I
totally
imagine
agree.
you agree. All right, moving on. We've got another email, and this one says, I called Purdon's office years ago about a specific child abuse case a friend of mine was having, and he wouldn't return my call. But then again, I called Drew Wrigley, Wayne Stenjum, and many other people. It seems they didn't want to discuss corrupt judges and child abuse. Here is my website. I suggest you don't talk to Purdon about this or the Attorney General if you want to keep your job. They know all about this website, and they're hoping it will go away. Call them and ask them a few questions. See what happens. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, hopefully, like we talked about, that the men are actually going to stand up and stop this sexual child abuse that's taking place on the reservation. Unfortunately, guys, we're the only ones that can do it.
Yep.
Be a man, stand up, quit trying to protect family, quit trying to protect an institution, and do the right thing.
Exactly. All right, what do we got coming up after the break?
We got Feel Good Friday. United Church for the Homeless raised a ton of money thanks to Giving Hearts Day, Dakota Medical Foundation, and Impact Foundation. You might be surprised just how pervasive this problem is right here in the metro area. And as always, please join our conversation. Love your feedback. Go to our website, 630pov.com. Welcome back. Well, it's our special Feel Good Friday segment thanks to Dakota Medical Foundation and Impact Foundation. With me tonight, the Executive Director of Churches United for the Homeless, Jane Alexander. Jane, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
You know, everything's going pretty well here in the Valley. So I hear about Churches United for the Homeless. Is homelessness really that much of a problem here in the area?
It is. We have an unprecedented number of people who are homeless and seeking shelter every night at Churches United. So many that we're over capacity every night, have people sleeping on the floor of our chapel and our boardroom. And we, only with the help of the sheltering churches, 13 that have assembled to help us from December through March, do we actually keep our promise of making sure that everybody has a place to be inside at night through the winter.
Typical night, how many beds short would you say that you are?
Oh, we had, in the 25th of February, we had 136 people in our midst, or in our building, some in beds and many on the floor, and then we sent many of those out to the sheltering churches. We have a capacity of 65. We're always over that in our beds anyway. But then besides that, we have about 20 on the floor on mats, and then we send about 20 to the sheltering churches.
Now, I know you were part of Giving Hearts Day with Dakota Medical Foundation and Impact Foundation. You took fifth. You raised $130,000.
Yes.
Great day for you. How are you going to use that money to make a difference here in our community?
Well, besides a commitment to just the basics of shelter, we really have a commitment to helping people leave homelessness, and that really involves a wealth of support services to help people figure out what it is they need to have a place to live again and to live a whole life. We have a case manager and a case management philosophy that it takes a village to raise a child, and we certainly see that with our families. Every child needs something different and has been affected differently by the difficulties that led to their homelessness. And so our shelter is just a beginning of getting those resources in place and housing them and sheltering them until they get a place to live, and then hopefully connecting them with resources that will sustain them through their lives.
Quickly, can people come and volunteer with you as well?
We'd love to have volunteers.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Obviously, this is a problem that is much more pervasive than I think most of us maybe even want to sometimes admit to ourselves. And so if this is something you say, hey, you know, Chris, I want to go make a difference here, you can get a chance to do that. Simply go to the website, impactgiveback.org. Again, impactgiveback.org. You can find out more about United Churches for the Homeless as well as many other organizations to go out and make a difference here on a Feel Good Friday. Stay close. We're going to get to your feedback when we come back. And as always, please go to our website, 630pov.com.
And take a look. It's a squirrel. Have you ever seen a squirrel? I've seen this guy. He's from Florida, actually.
He's talented.
That is the world and universal famous Twiggy, the water skiing squirrel. Now, he travels all around the place. Now, the bottom line is he's not only out there having fun, he promotes water safety, which is a pretty good idea. So, using a squirrel to do so, and I know that our producer, Ashley Bishop, absolutely goes bonkers over squirrels. She absolutely loves squirrels. So, she will be, I don't know if she's going to get to see Twiggy tonight or she's going to go tomorrow. But anyway, if you missed out on Twiggy tonight, you can see him tomorrow. So, he's in town for a day or so. All right, moving on. We've got more of your feedback. We're going to start with a tweet that says, reasons why people should vote for candidate versus just party affiliation. Hashtag Ben Lean, hashtag Minnesota, hashtag 630POV, hashtag waste of time. Your thoughts? I don't think he answered a single question, to be honest with you.
No, I mean, it was just one of those things where you kept trying to dance with him, and hopefully he was going to reveal something, and just nothing was ever really revealed.
All right, we've got another tweet for you. This one says, wow, Mr. Lean, you think it isn't good governing policy to share any of your views? Better to explain them after the session is over. Hashtag 630POV. And again, you know, it seems like we're beating up on Mr. Lean, but again, he didn't answer any questions. All right, up next, we've got a voicemail for you.
Hey, we're talking about these $30,000 paintings. Well, my wife and I planned on taking a trip to Washington, D.C., and our travel voucher said that we could have tickets to tour the White House. Now, if the White House is shut down, I won't get a chance to see this $30,000 painting. So isn't that a kick in the ass? I'd like to hear you guys comment on that.
I'd like to see that $30,000 painting too, but unfortunately, because of sequestration, no White House tours.
I just think it's classic. I mean, here we are paying for the painting, and we can't even go see it because our government's so irresponsible.
I don't get it. It's one of those deals. All right, we've got a text up next. It says, where is Moorhead's and Minnesota's financial support for this plan? That's a good question. It seems like everybody on this side of the river over here, they're footing the bill. If I remember right, one of the original plans did have it going through western Minnesota, but that was nixed. So maybe because, I don't know, will the river not flood over there if they don't do anything in terms of diversion? I don't know. Where is the money?
They don't have any. I mean, you've seen the numbers. Minnesota went from a $1.1 billion to a $627 million
$16 trillion in debt, and they can buy $30,000 paintings.
Yeah, but they've got a thing called the Federal Reserve.
So they can just print more money, right?
Exactly. Minnesota, unfortunately, can't do
that.
They
can mint more coins and print more money. We need to start doing that at home. All right, we've got another text for you. It says, I grew up in Illinois politics, the Ogilvie administration. I now live in Fargo. I'm so embarrassed to tell people I'm from the land of Lincoln. Your thoughts?
I think a lot of people are be embarrassed about that. You look at Illinois, that state is a mess. They can't fund practically anything right now, and people sit there and go, yeah, liberalism is great, it works awesome. I mean, just look at California and Illinois. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out it doesn't work.
Well, you had, was it Blagojevich? I always had trouble.
Yeah, how many governors from Illinois have been in jail?
Yeah, well, you've got one in the White House. Right? Well, not a governor, but you've got a senator from... Anyway, what do we got coming up on Monday?
Coming up on Monday, a few special guests. I believe Tax Commissioner Corey Fong is going to be joining us.
All right. If you haven't missed out on Twiggy, he's in town Saturday. Have a good weekend. We'll see you on Monday.